story. Carlton Hughes, a former Scotland Yard Special Branch and MI6 officer and the author of Black Ops.
I was undercover for Special Branch in a jihadi organisation.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for free.
So welcome to part 2 of the Black Spy podcast's last week's recordings. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back to last week and have a listen. But this is part 2. So enough further ado. So see, they tie religion up as well. You know, in the Church of England, of course. I'm not talking about in Catholics.
You know, I mean, I wanted to, I know I sort of jumped in on when you were talking before, but it was only because I can still remember the brownie guy promised I'd make when I was 6. I promised I'll do my best to do my duty to God, to serve the Queen, help other people, and keep the brownie guide law.
There you go. They tie everything up, and people say, there's not. It doesn't mean anything. No, everything's tied up. It's a very clever way of tying everything up beautifully. So normal people who are good, straightforward, everyday individuals who take an oath and then think, I'll live to my oath, they're then looking and thinking, hang on, yeah. Judges do, actually. It's another lot. They do, don't they, to the Queen? Well, the King now. They swear some sort of oath, don't they, to uphold the customs of the land in the name of the King, not to government. So they see themselves separate. You see what I'm saying? This is how these people,
exactly.
This is how it functions.
So Carson, I guess like my question really, and maybe your listeners want to get involved, right? Is there hasn't been a coronation or a new monarch in a heck of a long time.
Absolutely.
And now we've got this king who's in his 70s, and actually, like my mum says, my mum jokes because my mum was actually born in the same week that King Charles was born. Mm-hmm. So she always sort of compares herself. She's really funny. She sort of kind of goes, oh, you know what? Like, I'm less grey than him. I'm like walking up more mountains than him. Like I'm skiing more than him. Like but like as you say, it's been a very long time since the ground rules have been defined.
Purposefully, I suggest.
And if the ground rules aren't redefined,
which I don't think they will be,
should they be redefined? And my sort of third thinking point, I suppose, it would be, is it actually anarchy? Is it actually heresy? Is it actually, like if you don't agree with the new king, given that it's given on like over half a century since the last appointment of a monarch, if you don't agree, is it all right to not agree?
These are fantastic questions. And started off last week by asking individuals whether they'd like to see us live, you and I, appearing wherever, in church halls, in cinemas, in, I don't know, the O2, joking, in some people's homes, whether they'd like for us to appear live and to put these sort of questions that we could answer. I mentioned this because I had at least one person come back and say, yeah, that'd be great. The question is, how do you make that happen? I don't know if you got any letters on notes or whatever.
Well, yeah, we should. And just to your listeners' points, please keep talking to us. Please keep telling us what you want to see and hear and talk to us about, because, I can't say this enough. I'm so privileged that I get to ask Carlton all of these things, but actually, in the time that I've known Carlton, my thinking has become way more critical, even in everyday life. And I'm appreciative and I super value Carlton's insights. You know, there are some times when my children are having a little dispute or something, and I ask him to solve their fight the way that he would have solved it if he was in MI5. But this isn't just a unique thing. Like, you guys can have this. You guys can have this.
Yeah, we want it to happen, don't we? And I think you said to me, somebody had asked you and said, yeah.
People have asked me, and people have asked you, and let's just think about what this might be, and also, you know, just remember how many things Carlton knows that.
And you know as well, please. The reason why I brought it up just at this opportune moment is because, again, you made me think, because you brought this up. And I thought to myself, yes, what do people actually think? What do they wish to know? And if they know more, what would they think then? Because when you ask that question, based on what they know, and this is the beauty of us two together, you have that insightful newspaper perspective that the people, the man or woman on the Clapham omnibus, as one used to say, that they read and they then oftentimes regurgitate. So the question is, and from what we've all been speaking about today, and we've hit on some very complex and very neat and very powerful actual perspectives today, because you've asked questions which we've been, I for one for sure, have been a little bit uncomfortable with, because I know it hits right into the sweet spot of certain areas. And I'll never forget a CIA colleague saying Watergate would never have happened in the United Kingdom. Now, what she actually meant was that Watergate would never have come to light in the United Kingdom. And she means to light for the masses. Not that nobody would have ever known about it, but for the masses, because it would never have been produced in newspapers. So the question that you've hit on with some of these points is, what are we doing correctly or incorrectly in the United Kingdom in terms of articulating to our people, all those people out here, what actually really goes on? And if people knew, would they think differently? So the question, the reason why I thought of it, because when you say, what do people think? Should there be a king? You know, would the people think about it? Would they bother about it? Well, if you're already conditioned to it, I mean, the brownie one was superb. You said it, and you still know it now. That is a form of, I don't want to use brainwashing because it's a bit strong, but in a way it is. You know, you've been orientated to a view.
Brainwashing, but also let's just remember that when he's crowned the king, right, he's also crowned the head of the church.
Yep.
And you know, he's married to the woman that he was having an affair with for X amount of years, right?
Oh, bishops have been known to do that as well, haven't they?
Well, I'm sure bishops. So all I'm saying is, like, and again, this is just an open question to your listeners. Like, should we be bothered about this? Should we not be bothered about this? Like, but to circle back to my original thing, King Charles was sort of eligible. If he'd taken on his mother's role, he could have been king for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Right, but he's waited a very long time, and he's done a lot of very controversial things.
Can I ask you a question?
In that time, yeah, of course.
Just before you come through, can I ask you a question? Do you think, again, we've been given a picture of the Queen, and everybody says the Queen was superb. Thank you very much. Queen, blah, 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 duty, blah, 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 blah. Right? Should the Queen not have said, okay, I'll abdicate, you know, by the time I'm 70, say, and I'll let my son take over? Why must it have been that the Queen had to die before the son could take over? Is that a correct thing? Is it something that has to happen? These are all the questions that nobody asks because we find it difficult to ask these questions.
You know what? Loads newsrooms ask this all the time. Like the press asks this all the time. Like for example, when it was the legal age to retire for a woman.
Yes, correct.
There was a
See where you're going.
Narrative about the Queen retiring because.
Yeah. Absolutely.
She reached that legal age, and why should she keep working? But she kept working for another 30 years. Yep.
And is it well done, Queen, for being so loyal, or is it actually is she not a bit bloody minded and holding on to something that she could have handed over to somebody else?
Well, the third question was, did she not trust him in?
This is the other one, absolutely. That I was a little bit hesitant to put forward.
Was she so worried about if she let go of the reins, where this was all going to go, and then she'd have to live to see the consequences?
Yeah, very true, very true. Didn't want to throw it in there, but you've done it. You see, you've gone somewhere I wouldn't. Press wise, bum, straight in. Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. It's a legitimate question, isn't it? It's a totally legitimate question.
And all I'd say is, like, when you go back to, like, I mean, if you go, like, I mean, maybe there's a way to post something on when we put this episode live. I think we could maybe circle back to the we could probably find a link to the Black Spider memos, right? But I'd love to know what your listeners think, because, like, should the future king even have been trying to influence politicians in that way? And bear in mind, it was Tony Blair that he was in dialogue with, right? And Tony Blair was sort of saying, yeah, right? And then DC sort of quashed it when it was going through court, tried to, but then finally, after 10 years, it came out, you know. He was just, I mean, goodness. Like, when when it came out, though, you see, this is what's interesting. When it came out, it was dim and distant. And this is how the game is often played. You play the game in such a manner that when it actually comes out, frankly, nobody's interested anymore because they've forgotten what the original thing was. Well,
you see what I mean?
Well, yeah, of course, because also the original thing was like, flipping, let's look after the badgers, or let's save the fish, you know, in the Atlantic and all the rest of it. But the point was, right, the Queen always said the point about the role is to do nothing. Right now, I mean, a million taxpayers are all just sort of sitting here rolling their eyes going, why are we paying taxes if the role is to do nothing? But that's what the Queen always said, right? However, Charles took it upon himself, you know, from before he was even made the Prince of Wales, he took it upon himself to start writing agitprop letters to politicians to try and to stand up for the causes that he believed in, like whether it was alternative medicine, or whether it was sea fishing, or whether it was badgers or whatever. But, you know, the point is here, he's now the king. Okay.
But we all know that's not true, though, don't we, what the Queen said? The reality is we all know, or we should know. Because
obviously she was, you know, capping hand to Winston Churchill, and we all know this, or like, you know, but if you look at the Black Spider memo case, right, that went through court for the last 10 years, or you know, went through court for 10 years, right? Should the press be gagged to talk about his history ethically?
Let me ask you, is the press gagged?
Because he challenged the press.
Is the press gagged, Fergus? I'm asking you now.
Well,
this is directly to you. Is it gagged?
For the next 3 weeks, we kind of are, and then historically moving forwards, once he's the king, you have to go back. That's what I was saying before about the governance.
You're a little bit hesitant here now as well, aren't you? And this is what I mean.
No,
this is how powerful it is, because you're a little bit hesitant. I'm saying to you, is the press gagged? No, and I'm asking you that straightforward enough. Is it gagged?
I will give you.
Is it going one direction?
Okay. Honest answer, yes. Honest answer, yes.
Okay.
Right. However, I'm a little bit hesitant because of a subject that we've spoken about before, which is I hate to circle back to this, and I really hate to circle back to this, right? But it's the Meghan Markle thing.
So what you're actually saying is that Harry's correct. Harry is correct in saying when they choose to go down a particular avenue, they'll go down the avenue as long as the avenue doesn't destroy the whole kit and caboodle. Is that what you're basically saying? Because that's what Harry's saying. Harry's saying they can stop things from happening.
And that's why I was saying, Carlton, we're in complete agreement for once on this.
Yeah.
Right? That is exactly that, and it's so unfortunate. And that's why, again, I was saying that I know you and I are on the same team here because, you know, I always respected what Meghan was doing. You opened me up to respect what Harry was doing, and I now do. But I feel
I'm not a royalist. That's the thing. So that's how he took to me. He took.
Well, exactly. I'm not a royalist either.
When I looked at what he did, I said to myself, you know, this fella didn't do any of this. He actually served properly. He didn't just get a whole bag full of medals put on his chest and walk about for no reason. The fella actually did a job of work. When he didn't need to, put himself in danger, actually saw an angry man. Half these people who sit in judgment on people in whole loads of high places have never seen an angry man, or woman. This guy actually did do and put himself in danger. And I've got to say, when I hear that, this guy, he deserves plaudits for it.
But also, I mean, I say this so many times to, because, you know, I've narrated this to your listeners before, and, you know, Meghan Markle was famous before she even knew who Prince Harry was.
True.
She worked at, my favourite thing about her, she wrote a letter to Purcell, right, to say that their washing up liquid, commercial was sexist.
Yes.
When she was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And they changed the commercial.
Yeah.
Right. She even though her dad had left the family and she was in a, you know, slightly, you know, complicated, you know, and challenging upbringing, you know, she got herself a role in, you know, a hugely successful TV series and was an international superstar before she even knew who Prince Harry was. Right? Let's compare to, I'm not getting on my soapbox here, and I don't want people to, but let's just be real here. Compared to Kate Middleton, who had a goal, you know, she obviously liked Prince William, she went to the same uni as him, but she is well known in the media because she's married to Prince William. Meghan Markle is famous and would be famous, and for anything that she's saying now and any charity that she hooks up with and anything she says and anything she does and whatever, right, if you took Prince William out of the equation, it would still be in the media.
Right. Okay.
If you took Prince Harry out, if you took Prince Harry out of the equation. So
what you're saying is she is a self-made individual.
She's a self-made individual, right? Yeah. So if you took the Prince Harry narrative out of the equation, she'd still be headline news.
Yeah.
Right. But the difference is she met this guy, like, for goodness sake, right? She could have married Tom Cruise or anyone, right? You know, she's a Hollywood superstar. She met Prince Harry. She obviously really, really loves him. To the extent, I mean, you know, this might be going a bit like deep and dark for your listeners, but the end. But if anyone does make it through to the end chapter of Spare, right? She let him deliver their daughter.
All right. Okay. I didn't realize that. Okay.
He delivered their child. Right now, like, you've got to actually really love someone to let them do that.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
I would say, I haven't had 4 kids, I would say. Do you know what I mean?
I think where we are with this, because we're going to have to come to an end quite shortly. But I think sorry, go on, carry on.
No, just to circle back. I think what you said before I read Spare. Okay, I was totally Team Meghan. I was totally on that side. And you said to me, we had that conversation about Harry in the military and how he's so authentic and all the rest of it. And actually, when you read it with those eyes, and if you look at if you wanted to look at King Charles, I mean, he was in the Navy for a little bit, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sort of on a boat.
I'm not denigrating him, but I mean, you can only fight the wars where there are one. But of course, he wouldn't have gone anyway because he wouldn't have been allowed to. Look. The reality is, let's be realistic. The reality is that because he's spare, he probably was allowed to do other things. Now, it may well be the case that if William would have kicked and screamed, he might have been able to do it. Who knows? I don't know, because I'm not in those circles. And who does know other than speaking to the Queen? But the bottom line is that this fella wanted to do it. He made it happen and he did it. And all I can say from that is, well done, because you can actually wear the uniform correctly. So we give him that. In terms of this whole conversation circling round to the, what we're really talking about, when we really think about it, let's really consider it. We're actually talking about a very British censorship. It's a very clever self-censorship process. From the original story you asked me to recount, which I censored, all the way through, which I was a little bit, you've hit on a couple of things and I've been a little bit, When it got to the royal bits, crazily, I've censored them more than I have governmental bits. Because when I said to you, I'm asking you about the Prime Minister, and I'm saying, well, why is it that when he was a Chancellor, he's allowed 35,000 million pounds minimum, £1,000 million minimum of our money to not be investigated, to not be checked in any way, shape or means? I'm kind of happy saying that. I've really got little fear in saying that. But somehow when it comes over to the royals, I'm less courageous. So is it that we've all been conditioned? I only open this as a question to all listeners, that we've all been conditioned in Britain, that is, and beyond. Because we had a programme, remember, about the Commonwealth when you asked me some months back now. And I said, what might happen is, and people sometimes misunderstand this, if you get rid of the royals as your head of state, it doesn't mean to say you leave the Commonwealth. Because there's some countries that never had the royals as the head of state. I'll name you one, Rwanda, and it's part of the Commonwealth, right? In fact, it just joined not that long ago. Mozambique wanted to join the Commonwealth. So being in the Commonwealth does not mean that you have to be part, number one, ever have been part of the British Empire, and number two, that the Queen or King now was ever head of state of your country. So you can be a republic a la Pakistan, where the king is not the head of Pakistan and hasn't been forever and a day, or India and hasn't been forever and a day, and still be in the Commonwealth. People misunderstand that. And they also misunderstand that when they say the Queen, I don't say the Queen because we haven't had Chogham yet, the King is head of the Commonwealth, they think somehow that they're running the Commonwealth. They are not. They're just a titular head of that body. They don't run the body. Britain doesn't run the Commonwealth. It's not the way it works. I mean, people misunderstand that. And I always like to clarify, because somebody was saying it the other day, just in normal countenance, what somebody was saying about, we're running the no, they don't run the Commonwealth. That's a misunderstanding. We ran the empire. Yes, absolutely, but not the Commonwealth. It is not run by Britain. It is not run by the royal family. So I believe that Australia, New Zealand, potentially even Canada, why do I say even Canada? Potentially Canada will, within not so long, become republics and replace the king, as it is now, as head of state. I believe that will happen.
All right. So look, let's wrap this up in with our questions for for the listeners, my questions for your listeners would be, right now, what would they be saying to Prince William or Prince George even about how to maintain that heritage?
Interesting. I mean, even a different question, would they want to maintain their heritage?
Yeah, exactly. Like, God, like, would they want to just, like, you know, jack it all in and move to Silicon Valley and have another life?
You know, have Britain as a republic? Would people want that? I don't know. It's a question. Countries have done it, you know, and then returned to the royalty. Some countries have done that, got rid of them, returned to them, because they found it a way of doing it that kind of suits. Some countries have left it and never tried to put a new one in. You know, so it just depends. So it's an interesting one. But yeah, I'd love to hear from listeners. If you would, listeners, you know, do you think it is a concept that still has relevance today and immediacy? Plus, is it right that we have to self-censor ourselves? Is it right that the press is unwilling to question the need for the body? Is it right that the press, example, in a time of austerity or relative austerity, doesn't turn around and say, well, why are we spending this money? That said, it pales into insignificance against a loss of 35,000 million minimum, up to 50,000 million pounds that have gone missing, and our government is basically saying we're not going to investigate to find out where this money's gone. I suggest to you the reason why people are not asking where the money's gone is because if you start scratching a lot of these people who got all this money in the COVID times, you'll see that they're all connected to the present government in some way, shape or means. You know, a la allegedly Miss Morn is, who basically apparently made something like 200 million on PPE, which was then destroyed because it was no good. And by the way, she didn't pay 200 million for it. Apparently it only cost something like 42 million, I believe. So where's the rest of the money gone to? And this could bring us into bigger areas. You know, right now, you can argue, we won't get into the Ukraine now, but Boris Johnson brought us into the Ukraine war. We've spent literally billions on armaments to the Ukraine, which we now need to resupply. And I can give you the US figures because it's gone through Congress. The Congress spent 43 billion. Listen to this, you'll love this. The Congress spent 43 billion on armaments, and this is obviously not the latest ones, for the Ukraine that they've used up, right? And to replace the 43 billion they've spent, the companies have put a bill in, right, to the Congress for 300 billion. Now tell me, how does that work? You've spent 42 billion on armaments, but to replace them, same armaments, it's now 300 billion.
Even my 6-year-old will work out that was crap maths, right?
This is the thing. This is how we're being fooled. So my point through all of this has been, where is the money? Follow the money. What do you think?
Well, yeah, but also, I mean, it's another funny narrative. I mean, yeah, like, okay, circle back to the non-royalists, right? At the moment, there's a lot of media explains about the value of all the crowns and the scepters and the, you know, all the stuff, the gold carriage involved in the coronation, and all the rest of it. Like, and not, you know, like, not to mention the 8 million they've just spent on a photo shoot of Charles and Camilla. That's now going to be like the official portrait that's going to be in every doctor's surgery and right. It's a lot of money, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But when in the context of, people living hand to mouth, and
yeah, absolutely. Can we afford it? Look, we're going to have to call it a day. This
can we afford it? And yeah, that's, I think that you've hit the nail on the head. Can we afford it when there's a cost of living crisis?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what should we not just melt down that gold carriage and feed Britain's school children?
These are the questions, and they would be extremely valid if we didn't have a situation whereby, and I'll go back to the figure again. Rishi Sunak has told people not to bother investigating £35 billion worth lost. Minimum, that is. And this is not from... I'll finish on this because we're going to have to finish. And by the way, this, ladies and gentlemen, will be the end of part 2, because this will be in 2 parts, obviously because of the length of it. But we had to get through this because of the coronation, etc., etc. But I have to mention this political aspect. So it sounds like I'm defending royalty, but I'm not. But what I do have to say is this. The people who've done the estimation of the losses is not some ragtag press or even some ragtag people. No, this is the government's own accounting office, right? The Governmental Accounting Office of the United Kingdom has brought out a paper that says 20 to 21 year between 35 billion, that's 35,000 million pounds, and 50,000 million pounds has been defrauded from government, and our government has decided not to try to seek to obtain that money back. Right. No police, no serious fraud office, NCA investigate, nothing. End of story, finished. So normally I'd be going on rolls and saying 8 million, what a waste. But when I put that into context of 35,000 million or 50,000 million, it pales into insignificance. And that, for me, ladies and gentlemen, is my end to this week's and last week's podcast. I'm hoping Fergus will give her a valuation of what we've been talking about, and then we'll see you next week.
Do you know what? I can't be that. I can't be that. No, you absolutely bang on. Absolutely bang on. All I say is, I would be interested, as I said before, I'd be interested to hear from your listeners what they think, what they feel that the new emerging royals should do, what they feel that they as UK citizens should do, if they are indeed UK citizens, and because I know we've got global listeners, but also what should the government do, because in the landscape of geopolitics, governments have overthrown kings before, but is it necessary? Is it a different narrative?
Is it better the devil you know?
Is it better the devil you know, or is it a revolution, or is this just ground zero? Are we better off just scrapping it all, going back to saying look, let's just reinvent the system? If your listeners could reinvent the system, what would they suggest?
Interesting. And I think on that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we will leave you for these last 2 episodes, and we hope you've enjoyed it. And by the way, as Fergus said, if you have any ideas as to whether we should do public shows, please still give us a...
Oh, please do, because I bought nice shoes now.
Yeah, well done. Yeah. So please do email us.
I do get how much. I'm a mum of 4, but I'm not...
So you're begging.
I'm all up for this. Like you're gonna wear your nice suit. I'm gonna wear my nice shoes, and we're gonna nail this, and it's gonna be cool.
Cool evenings. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, all the best, and we'll see you again, hopefully, next week.
If you'd like to help Carlton keep producing the Black Spy podcast and receive episodes and information that's only available to Carlton's special Patreon agents, then you can donate as little as £3, €4 or $5 a month by signing up with Patreon. See the Black Spy podcast notes or Google Patreon Black Spy podcast and pledge your monthly amount. You can even win the opportunity to be a guest on the show. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe for free.
Here is a working class spy telling his stories, the secrets, the lives of spies. Feel free to message Carlton King on all socials and give this show 5 stars on Apple iTunes and subscribe so you never miss a single episode. For your ears only.
More than a quarter of a century, I was a member of Her Majesty's Secret Intelligence Service.